What's going on, guys? Now, this is a long video. It's like an 8-minute video. So we're going to get into the reaction. Make sure y'all like this video and share it. Apparently, you have a woman, I'm assuming of Dominican descent, who is from the United States, grew up in the United States, decided that she wanted to marry and be in a relationship with a man who's from and lives in the Dominican Republic. And apparently that relationship fizzled right after he came to the United States. And I'm going to tell y'all why as we get into this reaction as to why I feel like he just felt like he needed to go back to Dominican Republic and didn't want to be with her anymore. And we're going to get into it. Let me just say this. You know, people talk about the passport bros and they love to talk about the L's the passport bros take. And they love to joke about how, you know, when a passport bro brings a woman over to the States, she ends up leaving him. That's essentially what happened with her. But the guy didn't want to live in America. He didn't want to live in this toxicity of the United States. He wanted to go back to the Dominican Republic. All right. He would rather be there than deal with this toxic American energy. And I don't blame him. This is why you have men leaving to go there. Right. So we're going to get into this reaction.
Why my Dominican husband left me after only 2 weeks of living in the US. And let me start off by saying I'm never going to apologize for being a good person, having a good heart, and believing in love. Because one thing I'm never going to do is live in the what if, because I feel like es un desperdicio de vida. And if that makes me ingenua, then so be it. So my soon to...
You know, all these women say they're good people, but you had to go and marry and get with a man who was living in another country. Right. A lot of people love to tell men why you got to go overseas to get a woman. There are plenty of women here. Well, you could have said the same thing to her. I mean, there are Dominican men here in America that she didn't have to fly overseas to go see, but she wanted an authentically Dominican man. She wanted a Dominican man. She said she didn't want none of these Americanized Dominican men. She wanted a Dominican man.
My ex-husband and I, who we'll call Moon, we've been together for 4 years, married 3. I lived in the Dominican Republic with him during COVID, but we decided that it was better for me to come back and live in the United States so that we could qualify for the visa. So in 2022, I moved back and we started applying for the visa in August. I was going back and forth doing long distance porque yo estaba aguerrida de mi palo dominicano, mi amor, and no one can get me out of there. Fast forward to this year, in May, we heard back and got our appointment for May 2024. And we did the whole thing. He got approved. And then he ended coming back with me in June to the United States. So since the beginning of the relationship, he had always struggled with holding down a job and being financially responsible. And so I took it upon myself to teach him the things that I know so that he could get better, so that when he came to the States, he would just be able to manage his money.
So you're married to a man that doesn't know how to manage his money. She has to teach him. See, women love being with men that they feel like they have to fix and teach and help, right? That's one of the main things about this video. She's talking about how she's helping this guy. Well, this guy didn't want you to help him. That's why when he came here, he realized how much he was dependent on you. And I just don't think men, especially a guy who's from overseas, wants to come here to another country, doesn't speak the language. I'm just going to assume he doesn't really speak the language here, and wants to be in a situation where he is beholden to this woman because she's not telling us everything. So after 2 weeks, you know, he's struggling to find work and things of that nature. He just wants to go back. He wanted to go back because he did not like how he felt in that environment with you, and the fact that you basically were running a household. He's probably not used to that. There are men who are not used to women paying for everything. He felt inadequate. That's why he wanted to go back.
So over the past year, he was able to secure a really good job, and now he's balling and has all this money, and he's just like, I don't know what to do with it. Me being the person that I am, I'm like, ponte a ahorrar, like go to classes for English so that when you come to the United States, like, you know, the visa is coming through soon, you're prepared and ready to go. But of course, now he has in his mind that he wants to do something else with his money y que él va a comenzar a construir su casa. So that's what he's going to do. In the Republic, when you lay the roof of your house, usually your family members move on top of it. So that's what she did. She gave him a piece of her property so that he can start constructing there. But there was no need for him to start doing that just yet. So el hombre se puso a construir, which is great because now you have a place of your own. But now money is tight and you're asked out, and somehow, some way, now I'm the bad guy because I don't want to offer up my funds to help you do something that I told you that it wasn't the time for you to do. Of course, I feel guilty and I deposit him money to finish building the house. So I fly back to the yard to be with him and prepare for the visa interview. So before the visa interview, everything's going really well. After the visa interview is when shit starts going to hell. And it wasn't just the fact that I was realizing that I was going to be the sole provider, because I was ready to do that. We had already discussed it.
She was ready to be the sole provider. That's where the relationship fizzled. It's, Latin America, especially in South America, the Caribbeans, a lot of those men grew up in patriarchal households. They're not used to women taking care and paying for everything. She said they discussed it, but yeah, because he really wanted to make her happy. I believe he wanted to make her happy, and he was like, okay, I'll be fine with it, because I think she convinced him that he'd find a job very quickly. And that's why after 2 weeks he wanted to leave, because I don't think he thought, it was more difficult than he thought it would be.
But it was me realizing that you literally had done absolutely nothing to prepare yourself to move to the United States, even though we've been in this process over the last almost 2 years. It was his baby mamas texting him, asking him, oh my God, I can't believe you're leaving. So where does this leave us?
So he got baby mamas. Of course, he has children in the Dominican Republic. So are you expecting him to cut off, that part of his life and move to the States? Like, that's a crazy big move, especially if he has children that he has to provide for. He has to provide for those children. So, of course, they're going to be texting him wanting to know if he's leaving.
What are we? What do you feel for me? Excuse me? It was the finding him trying to initiate conversation.
Yeah, and of course, the baby mamas don't want him to go because, that's what baby mamas do.
Of his ex of almost 6 years. Why are you reaching out to her? It was simply the lack of consideration and me realizing that you're actively trying to make me the villain in this story.
I think that you've done a good job doing that yourself. You want a man to uproot his entire life, a place where he worked, he lived, he grew up, he has children at, and come to a country he doesn't know the language, he doesn't have a job lined up. She claims he didn't do anything before the move. We're hearing one side of the story, but I'll let her finish.
So now we're beefing and I'm telling him, bro, like, if you don't want to come to the United States right now, you don't have to. Let's work this stuff out and come in together in a healthier space. He refuses and he's like, we can push past this. Let's just go and live the life that we've always wanted to together. So we come to the States, and when I tell you things were rocky from the jump, tíreme de un barranco. And of course, we were going to have the basic relationship fights, like put the toilet seat down, pick up after this, because now we're living with each other 24/7. Pero lo que no se justifica is, why is la sierva texting you at 6 in the morning telling you about her personal problem? Why are you asking fulana de tal if she's eaten and recommending her to rent out the house? What house? And yes, moving to a whole different country is so hard, but I'm bending over backwards to make sure that you're having a good time. We're trying to help you acclimate in the best that I possibly can. From the moment that he set foot in the States, we tried really hard to help him find a job. But because his Social Security hadn't come in yet, he obviously couldn't start working, and we didn't want him to start working illegally just in case that brought any sort of problems. I will say though, one of the reasons why I fell in love with this man is because he knows how to work. He was never the one to be lounging around. He always was trying to hustle, work, provide for both of us when I was living there and I didn't have a job. And even after both of us were settled in, like, he was always really good and never asking me for anything, even though I would be the one to offer. Which is why I was so understanding when I could see that he was restless being here and not having anything to do. Lo que yo no entiendo, however, is that your restlessness is coming because you know you have bills to pay in the Dominican Republic and kids to maintain, but you did absolutely nothing para ahorrar tu dinero cuando tú podías. So unfortunately, the bickering and fighting.
Yes. when you take a man from not only from a different country, but he has children that he has to provide for, of course he's going to be restless because he thought that this was the land of opportunities and money and gold. And he thought that he would have a job. I wonder who put that in his head, that he would be able to find a job immediately. He would have been more, if she would have been honest with him and told him that it might be difficult for him to find a job, he wouldn't have left in the first place. He wouldn't have left in the first place. He left because you assured him of certain things and those things were not met. And that's why the tension started, because he believed that you could do certain things as far as employment is concerned, and that didn't come through. And you want to distance yourself from that and say, well, that was his fault.
Continued, and one of the first things that he said in our real fight was, is this why you brought me here? Like, get me my flight so I can go back. To which I responded, what you're not going to do is sit here and try to make this like I was the one who brought you here when this was actively your decision. Because what you're not trying to do is make this a me problem.
She says that it was his decision. Yes, he decided to go, but it was probably your insistence. You could have moved to the Dominican Republic. Why didn't you want to move to the Dominican Republic? Why was it a situation where he had to move to America? Because that wasn't his choice. He did it to be with you. He wasn't the one pushing to live in the States. You wanted him to come to the United States. You could have moved to the Dominican Republic. Why didn't you move to the Dominican Republic? You want this Dominican man so bad. Why didn't you move to the Dominican Republic? You could have made it easier for him, but you didn't, because you wanted control. You wanted to be back in the United States. You wanted to, because you know that it's different being here than in the Dominican Republic. Let's be clear. It's very different for women to live here than Dominican Republic. And it ain't just job related. It's lifestyle, politics, the way that things are going in this country is very female friendly, feminist eccentric.
Problem cuando tú eras the one who needed to save his money. But anyways, para cortarle story time, by the second week, he was already telling me that he was ready to go home. And I begged, y yo le lloré, y le pedí to please stay.
Because it's all your idea. The only reason why you went to the Dominican Republic for 10 months is because you knew you were coming back to the United States. You wanted to build good faith. And that's why you went. Because you like, hey, I stayed here for 10 months. Why don't we all both move back to this, even though he has children who live in the Dominican Republic and he needs a way to provide for them. I'm pretty sure there's a way that he could get a work visa. Did you ever try to get him a work visa? They do that with Mexicans all the time, or foreigners, and then you get a work visa. You get not just Mexico, but other countries. You can get a work visa and do the paperwork for that, and you work in the country, I think, for a certain amount of time, but you have to renew that work visa. You could have got him a work visa. Why you got him a work visa? If that was the issue, maybe she did. I don't know, but that's why I say I think there's some things missing here.
Let's work this out. Wait, the papers are going to come. You're going to be able to start working. It doesn't make sense for you to go back and start working there when the money that you could be earning there, you can earn it here in your first check. But at the end of the day, it just wasn't enough, and he just made his decision that he was going to leave, and he did. I had told him that if he decided to leave, that our relationship was done, because I was not going to be with someone who's going to come and only be here for 2 weeks and decide that they can't handle the pressure and just bounce.
Pressure.
When I moved to Dominican Republic,
the pressure, it is. There are men in America right now who can't find a job. It's tough for Americans, especially men, to find a job. But you want this guy to come here who don't know the language, who don't know his way around, to just magically find a job. It doesn't work like that unless you have a job lined up, which is what a work visa would be for. You have a job lined up already, so all he would have to do is come over to the States and it would be there. But that obviously did not happen. She said he can't handle the pressure. Well, America ain't for everybody. He clearly was hesitant about moving here anyway. That's why he wanted to leave after 2 weeks. And I think you made it very difficult on him. Probably was talking down to him, saying that's your house and all this. When a man is in that situation, he's going to want to leave. It ain't just about a job. It's about other things as well.
and I lived there for 10 months, looking for a job without finding one, just struggling just because I wanted to be with this man, because I wanted to give our relationship a shot. So you're gonna tell me that I can go ahead and do that, and I can fly back and forth for 4 years, spending my money, my time, and my resources, and you can't come here and sit there with me and struggle past 2 weeks?
Struggle love.
No.
Struggle love. I thought you heifers hate struggle love. I thought y'all hate struggle love. Y'all talking about, I don't want no struggle love. Well, she was all for that struggle love, right?
So ultimately we were going back and forth, but essentially I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And when he saw that I was really serious this time about ending the relationship for the first time, and I don't know how many times I broke up with him, he started feeling the heat. And so one Sunday night, he surprised me by flying back to the States, unbeknownst to me, knocking on my door without knowing my address. How did you get here, sir? And asking me to give him another shot. But by then it was too late. I did not recognize him. I looked at him and I didn't feel anything for him anymore, which it's hard to say, but just like the love wasn't there the way that it was before. So the next day I just told him he had to pick up his crap and go, because I just couldn't do this anymore. And that's what he did. The first thing that he packed was his visa, and he left to St. Croix to work. And then a week later, he went back to the Dominican Republic. So I filed for divorce about 2.5 weeks later, and last Friday he signed the divorce papers. So this is all actively still happening, and it's still very fresh. And I know there are a lot of people on here who say, oh my God, girl, like nunca, I would never. But you don't really know what you're gonna do in a situation unless you're in it. And
now I want y'all to understand something. She dated this guy for 4 years and then married him a year later. You didn't know, you didn't take the time to really get to know that guy. I could see of a situation where you knew him for 10, 15 years and y'all were cool and friends with each other, and you decided to start dating, and then you got married. Like, you wanted to be a passport sis, even though she is, I'm assuming is of Dominican descent, and maybe she has lived there before, but she is very Western. She's a Western Americanized woman. I think he realized that. And that's why he wanted to leave. He's like, oh, no, I can't deal with this. And it flopped. But, you know, people aren't going to talk about this. There's a lot of women like her who go overseas trying to bring men over, and those relationships fizzle. But they don't talk about that. They want to talk about all the L's that passport bros are taking. There are just as many women, passport sis, who are out taking a ton of L's, trying to bring men over here, and then those men end up leaving them. And you got to say to yourself, where's all the people that say that there's a lot of good, the same people that say there's a lot of good women in America, why don't they say the same thing to these women that try to bring these men over here? That there's a lot of good men over here for her to date. Men who are of her culture that she didn't even want. So let me know in the comment section below. Let me thoughts, like this video, share, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and I'll see you on this one.